in a world obsessed with power, wealth, and fame. There once existed a class of warriors who lived, fought, and died for something far deeper. They were called samurai, the noble warriors of ancient Japan. But what truly defined them was not their swords, not their armor, nor their fighting skill. It was two invisible forces that shaped their very existence: loyalty and honor. The two pillars of the legendary Bushido, the way of the warrior Bushido, wasn't just a code of conduct. It was a philosophy of life. It wasn't taught in classrooms or written in books. It was lived through every battle, every decision, and every sacrifice a samurai made. Born from the teachings of Zen Buddhism, Confucian ethics, and Shinto beliefs, Bushido created a harmony between strength and spirit, discipline and compassion, life and death. The samurai believed that life was as fragile as a cherry blossom, beautiful, yet destined to fall. So they chose to live in such a way that even their death carried meaning. To them, loyalty and honor were not choices. They were the only way to live a worthy life. Loyalty for a samurai meant absolute devotion, not to power, not to wealth, but to one's lord, family, and purpose. A samurai's word was his bond, and once he pledged his loyalty, it was eternal. He lived not for himself, but for the one he served. If his lord was wronged, the samurai sought justice. If his lord fell in battle, he would rather die than live in dishonor. There's a story of Kusunoki Masashige, one of Japan's most loyal samurai. When ordered by his emperor to fight a battle he knew was unwinnable, he didn't hesitate. He bowed deeply, smiled, and said, "If my death can bring honor to my emperor, then I shall gladly die." He rode into battle, outnumbered and outmatched, and fell, but his loyalty turned him into a symbol of devotion that Japan remembers to this day. For the samurai, loyalty was not blind obedience. It was about trust and faith in something greater than oneself. It was a discipline of the heart, a commitment to live by principles even when no one is watching. They believed that without loyalty, a man was just a weapon with no soul. And yet, loyalty was only half of the samurai soul. The other half was honor. Honor was everything. It was not given. It was earned every single day. It was the invisible armor that protected a samurai's name long after his body was gone. To lose honor was to lose oneself, and death was considered a kinder fate than living in disgrace. This belief gave birth to one of the most misunderstood traditions of the samurai, seppuku, or ritual suicide. When a samurai failed in his duty or brought shame to his name, he would take his own life, not out of despair, but to reclaim his honor. It was his final act of loyalty to his code, to his name, and to his soul. To outsiders, this might seem extreme, but to the samurai, honor was the foundation of existence. They believed that without it, victory was meaningless and life was hollow. A samurai could lose everything, his wealth, his title, even his home, but as long as he had honor, he still had dignity. Honor also meant living with integrity. It meant doing what is right even when it brings suffering. It meant humility in victory and grace in defeat. A true samurai never boasted of his strength or belittled his enemies. He fought not for fame, but to protect peace. In the quiet moments of dawn, when the mist covered the mountains and the sound of the bamboo swayed in the wind, a samurai would meditate on the impermanence of life. He reminded himself that every breath was a gift, and every action a reflection of his soul. This awareness kept his heart pure and his sword steady. A samurai's honor extended beyond the battlefield. It lived in how he spoke, how he treated others, and how he faced adversity. Even in moments of defeat, he remained calm, disciplined, and respectful. That's why the samurai were feared by enemies, but respected by all. Their strength didn't come from cruelty or anger, it came from control, patience, and unwavering faith in their principles. Loyalty and honor together created balance, one rooted in duty, the other in morality. Loyalty taught the samurai who to serve, and honor taught him how to serve. Without loyalty, he was lost. Without honor, he was empty. Even after the age of the samurai ended, their code lived on. Modern Japan still carries echoes of Bushido in its work ethic, its sense of duty, and its quiet discipline. Soldiers, leaders, and even artists find inspiration in the same values that guided the samurai centuries ago. And beyond Japan, the spirit of the samurai continues to inspire people across the world because loyalty and honor are not bound by time or culture. They're universal truths. They remind us that real strength isn't T in domination or aggression. It's S in devotion, discipline, and doing what's right even when it costs us everything. Imagine a world where people lived with the same commitment, loyal not just to others, but to their purpose, their word, and their values. A world where honor mattered more than ego and where integrity was worth more than fame. That was the world the samurai dreamed of, and in many ways, it's the world we still strive for. When you look at the life of a samurai, you don't just see a warrior. You see a man in constant pursuit of perfection, not in battle, but in character. A man who understood that true power lies not in taking life, but in mastering it. Loyalty gave him direction. Honor gave him meaning. And together, they gave him peace. Centuries have passed, empires have fallen, and the world has changed beyond recognition. But the spirit of the samurai remains timeless, because in the end, the sharpest blade is not forged from steel, but from the strength of the human spirit. And that spirit, loyal, disciplined, and honorable, is what keeps the legacy of the samurai alive forever.